Hello and welcome back to the Eyes of O Gaming channel. Thank you for joining me as we investigate another older game in the What Is It and Is It Worth It game review and showcase series. During the review, I will try my best to stay objective and as spoiler-free as possible as we go over the various aspects of the game, such as mechanics, graphics, and sound, as well as giving a general idea of the world the game takes place in. I won't be giving a number rating to the game, as I find number rating systems to be very arbitrary considering the subjective nature of video games. Instead, I'll try my best to give enough information that you can decide for yourself if the game is worth it for you. If you are interested in a more subjective look, stay to the end of the video for my personal recommendation of if I would recommend the game, and if I actually enjoyed it with a simple yes, no, or sometimes a maybe, and a short explanation of why or why not. Have you ever wondered what it might have been like to wander the ancient Greek world like Odysseus in Homer's Odyssey? Well, now thanks to video games you can play out that fantasy, or at least a similar one, as today we look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey. A game that released in 2018, was developed by Ubisoft Quebec, being published by, you guessed it, Ubisoft. Today we're going to take a look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey, going over many aspects of what this game is while trying very hard to remain objective and as story spoiler free as possible, so we can answer the most important question asked in this video game review series. Is this one worth it for you? Sit back, relax, and let's find out together. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is the 11th in the main series releases and came out the year following Assassin's Creed Origins. Considering the number of releases in the franchise and how popular the series is, you likely have some idea of what the game is about, but if not, essentially the Assassin's Creed series has followed the story of the Assassins versus the Templars in their war which has lasted across the ages. The games typically play out with a modern and historical component, where the modern story is delivered mainly through dialogue and some minor puzzle solving or parkour elements. The main character you play as in the modern timeline will then enter a machine called the Animus, where they assume the role of a historical figure in order to gain some information or insights to help with the current conflict. This game is no different in that one respect, as you will have a modern character, Layla, who will use the Animus to allow the player to take control of a male protagonist, Alexios, or a female protagonist, Cassandra. Where it differs is that there won't be really any assassins or Templars. Instead, your character will be a mercenary who, for reasons explained during the game, will find themselves at odds with a group called the Cult of Cosmos. Though not Templars versus assassins, it will play out in a similar fashion, where the player will need to first uncover cult members, and then assassinate the members working their way to higher level associates within the cult. Mechanically, the game is quite similar to previous entries in the series. If you're unfamiliar with those, parkour is a huge element of the game. Scaling buildings, mountains, or cliff faces will be necessary in order to get around in some areas, and reaching specific high areas will give you vantage points from which you can synchronize and gain additional knowledge of your surroundings. Stealth returns in the game. However, it seems to be a much less important component than in previous entries. The game allows you to choose from 3 different classes, the Hunter, Assassin, and Warrior, which translates to ranged, stealth, or melee. In previous entries, stealth was the main focus as you were an assassin, hence the title of the series, Assassin's Creed. Now, however, you are given the freedom to do basically whatever you want. Continue using stealth as in earlier titles in the series, or dump points in the skill tree of the warrior and just charge into engagements. As your character is a mercenary and not part of any order, It really is up to you how to develop them and which skills to focus on. Aside from the combat, you have a huge open world to explore in third person. You can travel on foot on land or by horse, and you will also get a ship very early on in the game, which allows you to sail around to the various Greek islands. The naval aspect will be similar to Black Flag or Rogue, though seems to be less involved than those titles were. As your character's alias, the Eagle Bearer, would suggest, you have an eagle which can be used to locate mission objectives or scout areas for enemies. Graphics are great, just as you would expect. NPCs look good, armor and weapons are very interesting and well made, the environments are beautiful, everything graphically works very well in this game, and really helps to build the immersion as you play through. I also didn't run into any graphical glitches or any bugs really at all throughout the game, and everything worked really smoothly. In terms of unique features that set this one apart, I can mention that this game is different from previous entries in the series. Origins was the first one, in my opinion, to start moving away from the traditional Assassins vs. Templar storylines and toward a more generic historical fantasy RPG style. If Origins was a small step away from the foundational style, Odyssey is another giant leap in the historical RPG direction. Other than the name, this one really doesn't have much to do with assassins or their creed, as your mercenary character can be molded into whatever playstyle you prefer. More often than not, even if you begin with stealth, there are certain mechanics which make it almost impossible to stay as a strictly assassin style of character, and you are often pushed into a warrior role. Continuing on the mercenary theme, another interesting mechanic is that as the game map is essentially split between two warring factions, the Athenians and Spartans, you can choose to play either or both sides at different parts of the game. Sometimes you will be forced to play on one side or the other due to the main campaign storyline, but typically you will choose who to support by taking missions, weakening or strengthening control of certain areas, and eventually fighting under one faction's flag in order to bring a region under their control. If you anger a faction with your actions, watch out, as other mercenaries will be purchased to pursue you for your crimes against the offended nation. As you inevitably come into conflict with and defeat your fellow mercs, you will also climb the ranks of the mercenary tiers, and you can see your position among your peers as well. Sound is mostly really quite good. I'm not sure what the problem at Ubisoft is, but in recent years dialogue and voice acting has just been really off. This one also feels a little strange compared to previous Assassin's Creed games, though not nearly as bad as something like Watch Dogs Legion or even Watch Dogs 2. That said, it is definitely worse than Origins, but still very tolerable.
That's what I get for sparing you. Oh,
Together we will revolutionize winemaking. Believe me, you will look back on this day and... Alexios, thank the gods! Phoebe found you in time. About grapes. I can still hear you!
off we go now. Ella.
Comparing this game to others, or any Ubisoft game really, is actually getting easier all the time, as Ubisoft is slowly turning all of its games into the same thing. Obvious comparisons come from the previous Assassin's Creed games, with Assassin's Creed Origins being the most similar with the RPG style. Other than that, the Watch Dogs series also has a similar parkour element, which is becoming more and more similar to Assassin's Creed with each release as well. The Far Cry series also has some elements which are similar, such as the open world map typically being revealed by synchronizing at an elevated location. So now that we've looked at some of the features of the game, we reach the point of my review where I give a more subjective look at my personal experience with it. Please keep in mind that the following is just my opinion of the game, and if the features and genre seem interesting to you, you should definitely check it out for yourself, as not all games are for all gamers. The game that you hate might be the next gamer's all-time favorite, which is one of the things that I love about gaming. There's always something for someone out there. So the did I enjoy it question, and do I recommend this for a first time player?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Well, I did enjoy it, though I need to qualify that a bit. On its own, this is a decent historical fantasy RPG game. It is long, the areas between missions can be a little devoid of interesting things, and it is certainly more grindy than it needs to be. But the story is okay, and there is many side quests and missions to stay busy with. Developing your character by investing in skill trees and exploring the ancient Greek world is also very cool. I really wish this wasn't an Assassin's Creed game though, or at least not in the direction the main series is going in. I've played all of the Assassin's Creed games going back to the very first one when it was released, and I really enjoyed the overall story that was being built and the struggle between the Templar and Assassin orders. This one is just too far removed from that storyline to actually feel like an Assassin's Creed game. Again, I did find it to be an overall decent experience on its own, but would be better in a separate historical RPG series, alongside an assassin-focused series. Ultimately, it's not an amazing game, but if you are looking for a decent RPG you can dump a ton of hours into, and especially if you're a fan of historical games, this could be a really good option for you. So I hope you enjoyed this look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Have you already played through this one? What were your own thoughts on the game? Did you agree or disagree with my own assessment of it? If you disagreed, let me know why. Maybe there's something I didn't think of and you can convince me. I'd love to hear about your own experiences down in the comments, or if my review showcase was helpful, I'd like to know if you decided to go ahead with it or not. Either way, if you found this video interesting or entertaining, please let me know with a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to the channel. I make and upload a variety of gaming content, not just reviews like this, but also walkthroughs, mod showcases, let's play, and more, and I'd love to have you join the community and help direct the future of the channel. Otherwise, thank you so much for taking the time to watch today, and until next time, take care.
You killed his mater and fucked his pater.
But the prophecy said Pater would scream to the gods in agony.
He screamed, but not in agony.